welcome to the Three Chords and Some Lies podcast with me, Andy.
And me, Jim. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you, Jim?
Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad. I've just been plinking away on my
your Zona
this morning. So which is what made our good friend Wayne, who we'll be talking to at some point, no doubt. But yeah,
we will. We've got to get Wayne on and talk about his amazing guitars because they are really nice.
They are great.
We will do another. We've had a guitar maker on, so we'll have another one on at some point.
No doubt, and pedal makers and all sorts. No, I had a really good, interesting chat with a guy by the name of Joe from Hello Sailor Effects, and he's someone we definitely need to have on. He's also got a very interesting YouTube channel, and he's definitely he's another ex-military, similar to Thorpe actually, but he was in the Navy, and he's got some very, very interesting stories, and he's a very interesting guy. But that's a whole other story. So yes, so today, Andy, tell us a little bit about our topic for today, Andy.
Our topic for today, to the viewing several, is we're going to talk about bands, being in a band, what you need to be in a band, the people you need to be in a band. Do you need rehearsal spaces? Do you need lots of equipment? What equipment should you have?
Yep.
And just anything. I mean, I've been in bands, but not mega style because they've all fizzled out for one reason or another with commitments and stuff. You've been in a far more successful band and been on Radio 1, so
yeah. But again, I'd probably earned almost enough to buy half a pint of beer out of the whole scenario. So it's one of those. But it's kind of like the whole thing about bands and why you start playing the guitar in the first place. And we had a bit of an influences discussion a while ago, but it's the whole. What the main reason that I got into guitars, I love the sound of guitars, I love the look of guitars, but I wanted to be in a band because it looked like fun. And I was very misguided because some of it's fun, an awful lot of it really, really isn't. But,
there is a lot of it that isn't. The lugging equipment about part was the bit that I didn't like. That was the annoying bit.
Yeah, that and other members of your band getting hammered when you're driving and you having to load all of the equipment into the car with a promise that maybe they will help you, and also people's tardiness, people not responding on WhatsApp groups, it is an absolute nightmare. I do love it still, and I will never stop. And I've always said that I'll be in a band if I survive into my 90s, I'll be in a band in my 90s too. But it's one of those things. You start off thinking that it's going to be the be all and end all, and you think you're going to make it. And newsflash, you're probably not. You've got much more of a chance of winning the lottery than you ever have of making it in a band. I think,
unfortunately, so.
I think if you actually, people generally win the lottery once a week. I'm not sure that one band breaks to the point of being able to live a successful lifestyle once a week. But there we go.
No.
But yeah, there are many things. I mean, it's really, really. Obviously, we're kind of guitar focused. So, I mean, it's nowadays things are very, very different. When I first started in bands in Guernsey and in London, you tended to need to bring all of your own gear.
Yeah.
Now, that's not so much of a thing anymore. So most of the venues you'll find, local venues in London and all that kind of stuff, have got their own back line. Now, the reason for this is that musicians are utterly useless. So the number of times that people would turn up to gigs going, oh, here's my guitar, it's got 3 strings. I'm looking forward to doing my gig tonight, but I've got no amplifier, no backline, and the drummer hasn't got a kit. And the number of times, and it always falls to me to fix it, the number of times that has gone on in my life is just unbelievable. So
yes,
yeah, it's a bit of a result really that it tends not to be that good. But there tends to be a back line of sorts. So having and lugging your own amplifier along to a gig tends not to be as big a thing as it used to be.
Well, that's good. I mean, when I was doing it, I've had my Vox AC30 and I was lugging that around, and that weighs the same as St Paul's Cathedral.
Yeah, they're no fun to carry.
Fun to carry, and it would be really good if someone could invent a way that amps could be lighter and just better generally to carry on. But I guess you need them to be weighed down so that the sound doesn't rock them all over the stage and they fall over. So it is what it is. But
this is where our friends over at Victory, who I'd love to get on at some point if they're listening, have done really, really well with these lunchbox amps. So basically, you've got a 40 watt valve amp in a package about so big, and they are extremely portable, very, very good. Danish Pete uses one. Very, very good. And also, they then come with a separate 2x12 cab rather than the old school 4x12 cab.
Okay.
So that you can actually carry one in one hand and one in the other hand. I played a gig in a tiny venue in Brighton last weekend called the Bee's Mouth, and it was literally down the narrowest load of stairs and up hills that you've ever seen, and it was actually not too bad. But an AC30 is a whole different story. Obviously, there's nothing nicer than the sound of a chiming loud AC30. And
I love the sound.
Oh, they're fantastic. Well, Horry, when I was in the band for Steve Horry, who's a mutual friend of ours, he would, even if we were playing small venues around London, he would insist on taking his AC30 on the bus because he didn't have a car. And every time, he would carry Gibson 345 in a case, a backup guitar, usually a Telecaster or a Jazzmaster, in a bag on his back, his pedal board, which is huge, and an AC30 with him somehow. And he would manage to do that. I mean, he'll probably listen to this and put some comments underneath it, I would hope. But which is why he always sounded better than me, because I would just turn up with whatever plank of wood I could find, plug it into whatever was there.
So the moral of the story is don't arm wrestle Steve Horry, because...
No, exactly. He's going to be fairly tough for loading.
Fairly chunky boy, yeah. I mean, so obviously this is just the sort of the minutiae of being in a band, and there's the logistics of it all, and it isn't fun.
No.
But that's a very depressing way to start the thing. But people have to be vaguely aware of what's going on. It isn't all roses and wonderfulness and groupies and girls all over the place. I mean, none of that actually happens. And
not at our age.
Not at our age. Not even when I was younger either.
No.
But I think people, if you're starting a band, if you want to start a band, even if you're our age, you think, oh, no, I've always wanted to have one and I'm going to start one, which has happened.
Yeah.
Or if you're young and you're watching this, you want to start a band, I think we, cover some stuff that you need to do. You're not going to make it. It's as simple as that. It's the top one. It's the top. Yeah. Get rid of that thought. 0.1% of bands get big.
Yeah.
The rest of them are just struggling. I think do it for a laugh. Do it because you like to show off a bit, because that's essentially what it's about. And elevate yourself to like a wedding band. Do covers or something mixed in with your own stuff. They pay pretty well.
Yeah. If that's
and enjoy
it. Or if you want to do something crazy and noisy and completely out there, do that as well. But it's all about, you have to enjoy it. Don't ever. The second you stop enjoying being a band is the day to stop being in that band. You can always move on.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
And I would agree with that. So the first thing I would suggest you did is, obviously there was the old Sniffing Glue fanzine from the punk days that said, here's 3 chords. Here's 2 chords, here's another, now form a band, which was what they suggested you did. And I would say exactly the same. Basically, if you learn a couple of chords, you just need to get a few people together who are like-minded. You will need a drummer, which will be the hardest thing to find. Every drummer you find will be in 9 to 10 other bands and won't have their own vehicular transport.
What is it with drummers? They're all the same. They're all mad, and you can never find one. And they all belong to 1,000 bands. And like when we had Dobson in ours, and our friend Andy Dobson, who was a brilliant drummer.
Yeah, he still is.
And he still is, I'm sure. Hello, Dobson. And he used to light that kit up when he came. But I mean, there's commitments and stuff, and trying to get hold of anybody at all to do it.
He is probably the one of the exceptions, because he did have his own car.
He did,
and
he was a petrol head, which helped.
Yeah, exactly. If he said he was going to be somewhere, he would be there. Now,
yeah, he would. He was very good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say, I mean, it's since then, it's always. And the other thing is your band is only as good as your drummer. If your drummer is no good, your band is no good. It doesn't matter if you've got, I don't know, Paul McCartney on the bass, if you've got Jimmy Page on lead guitar and whoever, Robert Plant on vocals, your band's going to be rubbish if your drummer's rubbish. It makes they are the absolute. The rest of your band, you can build around it.
Yeah.
But having never been a drummer, I learnt drums for about 6 to 8 weeks. I was terrible at it, never bothered ever since. But
I tried it once. It's literally impossible.
Yeah,
How do you do this?
But
It's just you're chopping wood all night, but how do you what? It's witchcraft.
Then the other thing is, why would you want to? Is the other thing, which is
we
why
have to say that because we're guitar players.
Yeah, exactly. And
But we respect drummers.
Respect and love drummers, absolutely, because it is a thankless task, particularly when you're playing around London's toilet venues and you have got to, particularly upstairs at the garage,
Yes.
and you've got to carry stuff miles for no good reason.
One of my favorite jokes is a drummer joke. Do we like drummer jokes?
Yes,
It's not rude.
Okay, well, that's fine.
It's a PG certified joke.
Okay, go on then.
So it was, what do you call those people that hang around with bands? And people go, is it groupies? And we go, no, it's drummers.
No, the other one, the other one I had was, how can you tell if the drummer's at your door? The knocking's out of time and he doesn't know when to come in. But we'll leave the dad jokes there for now.
We'll leave the dad jokes there. But there's a guitar joke I heard Stuart Copeland say, which was, what do you throw a drowning guitar player? His amplifier.
Very
so we
good.
have, there's a bit of balance there.
There is
a bit of balance.
So basically, then you need your bass player. Now, your bass player is one of two characters. Number one is someone who's obsessed with the bass guitar, which is the kind of bass player that you want to have.
Yes, absolutely. Which I have.
Well, actually, there's three kinds. Because I've got Danny, because Danny's an all-round genius musician, but he's such a phenomenal bass player. But he plays the bass. He plays thick strings, high action, thumps it. He plays a Fender jazz bass, and he absolutely he plays like no one else on earth. He's also a great songwriter and a far better guitarist than I'll ever be. But he kind of fell into the bass for Subliminal Girls. I don't really know why, but he just fell into the bass duties. I think he was on bass for a couple of other bands and ended up just basically doing for playing. And anyway, he's now.
So he's a guitar player as well.
He's a guitar
when I
player.
was in a band with him, it was guitar
And a piano player and a phenomenal singer as well, and a great songwriter, an all-round multi-talented guy, and a great.
He can do everything.
Absolutely, a great bloke to boot as well. But so he was the first bass player I ever had was someone who wanted to be in a band as well, the same as I did, and I couldn't play at all. I used to have a lead that went out of the back of the guitar, out the back of the stage, that wasn't connected to anything, because I wanted to be. It's absolutely true. I wanted to be on stage that much. I wanted to play. And so you don't need any form of talent. You need an awful lot of confidence. That's all you really need.
Yeah, so, pretty much. Yeah.
So you got your bass player. I mean, they are again need to get on with your drummer, because they are going to be together all of the time. They're going to have to lock together and get on as people. If your bass player and your drummer don't get on, and your bass player and drummer can't play together, it's never going to work. Absolutely.
Well,
sorry, you go.
I was gonna touch on this. Is that if you get a band with people that you know you can trust and that you get on with.
Yeah. Because
it can be a very stressful situation. There's obviously there's well documented lots of famous arguments, Gallagher brothers being one, and, the Everly brothers, and
they're reforming.
Everyone.
Did you see that this morning on the news?
Who?
Oasis are reforming.
No.
Yeah, that's good for you.
Word.
For me,
good for you. I know you hate them, but
I don't necessarily hate them. I just find them. They never really ignited themselves in my head, but
fair enough.
They are. See,
but the point is
money. I guess.
Yeah. But the point is, I mean, even ABBA broke up, the Police stopped, Dire Straits stopped, and they all stopped for various reasons, and not necessarily for arguments. But when I had a band which unfortunately never went anywhere because the commitments happened and marriages happened, and they all went off. But at the time when we were all together, we all got on. They were actually all students of mine. They were actually all guitar students, but one of them was a great singer, Jim.
Yeah,
good name. The other one was Greg, who was was sort of a pretty okay drummer. Then we had LT, who was just captain bass. He was awesome. I'd got him into the Guitar Institute as a bass player, and he was just loved bass.
What's his name?
Awesome. James Letitia.
Oh,
I don't know. Do you know?
Hang on. Yes, I don't know Letitia. No, James LaHure I know really well.
Okay, no.
But
well, he was just LT to me. It's everybody called him LT, but he was hey LT if you want. But he was awesome. He was a great musician. He was a great bass player. And I think when you've got a load of good people like that, it just works. But don't just jump into a band with it, because people go, "Oh, are you going to get into a band again?" I'm like, I'm not, because I don't know anybody well enough to do it. I literally can't be bothered to lump all the stuff about, but it's about having the right people, and there just aren't.
It is. There's so much luck. I mean, when I first got into a proper band in the UK, it was Rhesus, and I still use that as my surname for most social media stuff. So basically, what happened was there was a website called Musicians in Your City, and I was sitting at work, and I just discovered the internet, and this thing came, and there was a guy on there called Wayne who lived fairly near me, and I popped a message on this thing, and he said, "Yeah, okay, we'll audition you." And it was a proper audition. Like, they took me to a studio in Croydon, in a savage area of Croydon.
Oh, my word.
And I literally, it was Paul, who's a really good friend of ours as well, Charlie, who's a phenomenal drummer, and Wayne, and they were a couple of years older than me. They were properly pro. Like, they launched into their, and I was just like, I have not been in this situation before. I am not, I am out of my depth, absolutely out of my depth here. But I had my 69 gold top Les Paul that I sold for like an idiot, and I picked it up and I played Gouge Away by the Pixies, and fairly well, but not brilliantly. But what actually happened was they were so fed up of looking for a singer, they were either going to call it a day or give someone a go, and they gave someone a go, and it was me, and that's how I first got into a band. So it was purely by fluke. But those people are still my friends. I'm still in bands with most of them now, it's still something which there's still people who I get on with really well. So it's like, that's kind of an exception to the rule. And a real short. I'm not going to, because I could talk about this all night. I'm not going to go quickly on it. Charlie decided to leave Rhesus after a while. He was going travelling. He went around South America or something like that. So we needed to find another drummer. And I was a massive fan of a band called Carter the Unstoppable Sex Machine at the time. Still am. Massive fan of it. And I found out they also had a website. So I popped the guitarist Fruitbat, I popped him a message. I didn't know him from Adam. He was one of my heroes, saying, this is my band, because I was able to send a link to a song, which I'd never done before. This was all new stuff to me. Sent it over on the internet. He came back. He went, I really like that. I'm listening to this right now. He's bloody hell. He said, and my housemate's a drummer, and he's looking for a band. I went, well, he's got the job. I haven't even heard the guy, but he's got the job. So, kind of very long story short, that was Aaron. So I went round to Fruitbat's house in Brixton, absolutely starstruck. He answered the door, and I was like, didn't know what to say. Auditioned Aaron. I've still got the email when I popped him an email back saying it was really great to meet him and all that kind of stuff. And he hadn't been in the band for years, but his commitment and his attitude. This is what we're talking about before. This is coming back to it. The commitment and attitude and love for it. He booked himself a studio underneath the arches at Clapham Junction for 2 whole days and just practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced with his headphones on, and got it for the next rehearsal. I went to pick him up for his next rehearsal. He was late back from work, and I walked in, and Fruitbat was there again. So I was having a cup of tea with Fruitbat, and he went, Jim, I'm going on tour next week for a week, and my guitarist Richie can't make it. Will you come and play for me?
Oh my God.
So I went on tour with Jim Bob and Fruitbat.
Good grief.
And this is all
I didn't know that.
Yeah, this is. Honestly, I've done loads of ridiculous things, but I was actually recounting to someone the other night. This is one of the wonderful things about music and being in bands, is that something random like that might happen out of nowhere, because I was nowhere near qualified to play guitar for Fruitbat. I had to go home and practice like a good one, because I couldn't play. I couldn't play. I could manage a few chords, but that was it.
That was it.
And I always remember I'd swapped that Gibson Gold Top I told you about for a really nice 74 Gretsch Country Club. It was lovely.
Oh, lovely.
It was a proper one, a proper old vintage American one.
Wow.
And I went on, and I was in Plymouth, at this venue in Plymouth that we were playing at. I couldn't find my guitar anywhere, and the case was open, the guitar was gone, and I was like, we're just about to go on stage, so what's going to happen? And Jim Bob's roadie friend came up to me with my guitar all tuned, all ready to go, and put it around my neck. And he went, "You haven't got to worry about that when you're on tour with us." And wow, I've got someone's just guitar text me, amazing. So anyway, that's a slight digression. That's why being in a band is also wonderful sometimes, because something like that you really don't expect is going to happen ever.
Well, the highlight when I had a band with my friend Keith and I think Neil and Andy Dobson.
Keith Mullane? No.
My Keith Tapscott. Yeah. He's a friend of mine. He was my best man at my wedding.
Oh, really? Okay.
He had his own studio, and it was, I had a band with Danny and Lindsay. Remember Linz?
I do.
Hey, Linz. So we were called the Twain, and we gigged and we did stuff. And Keith sort of said, I've got a son called Dan, and I've got a studio. So could you teach him guitar, and you can have my studio, and we'll just swap. And I was like,
wow.
Yeah, wow. So Keith was a legend. So we went in and recorded some demos and all the stuff that you do when you're young and mad and think you can do stuff. And then Danny left, and then it was just me and Linz, and it was fine. And then I had a band later with Neil, who's passed away recently, and Dobson and Keith, and we just did normal sort of bluesy kind of stuff. But we did Sultans of Swing, the full 8-9 minute live version.
I would love to have. Did you ever record it? I'd love to hear
No,
that.
we didn't. But
you did, back in the day, you see, now everyone carries a full film and editing studio in their pockets everywhere they go.
Exactly, and we didn't because it was in the 90s. So I remember we went down to a folk and blues club and had a gig down there, and we just did the stuff. And there was a few people who'd come down to see us, and it was fine. And then I took, because Keith was always trying to sort of keep it a bit slow. He was like, let's not do it too quickly. And I was like, yeah, that smells of weed. We're going to get this. We're going to rock this out. So I turned around to Dobson. I was like, right, bang, 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 bang. And he went, okay, whack. And we knocked Sultans of Swing out the park. It was absolutely flat up. There were people pouring in from outside, coming in the door, just going, what the hell is going on in here? And the whole room was on fire.
And fantastic.
It was amazing. So, we started with all the rubbish things that you have within a band, but these are all the good things you can have. And Dobson got to the end, and he probably still tell you to this day, he said, I could not have physically played that any faster than we did. That was me, absolutely. I turned up to 11. I couldn't have done it anymore. And people were coming up to me. There was guys from school that were just awful to me at school, but were coming up to me and just going, my God, how did you do that? It was a bonkers day.
Well, that's
why you do it.
Well, it is why. I mean, another great example of why you do it. I mean, my first gig was with Dizzy Moth at the Fermain Tavern, and I was, as I said, my guitar
hasn't been in Dizzy Moth. I was in Dizzy Moth.
Of course you were in Dizzy Moth. we had, and again, I had my guitar and wasn't plugged in. It just literally went off the back. I wanted to be on there so much. Anyway, in a very long story short, it was the first time I got, and I never get ill. I mean, I could eat a raw turd and not get sick, And I'd been for a Chinese the night before, and I'd got food poisoning. But I was never not going to do that gig. So I got up and I went to work that day at Trev's Motorcycles.
Oh, God.
And I took a bucket. Because people call me James, and I had James's bucket written on it. And I had a bucket on stage because I was that. But there was no way I wasn't doing that gig.
Oh my word! And that's dedication.
It was two guys from school, Ollie Coughlin and Matt Heemans' 18th birthday, and we did our Dizzy Moth bit, which was fairly average. We hadn't really played before, it was. Yeah. But then we'd worked out that we could very, very convincingly do Pretty Vacant and Anarchy in the UK by the Sex Pistols. And we went from being, who is this weird band, to every single person in my year at school going absolutely ballistic. And it was that, and I can look up, and there was a girl, I can't remember her name, sitting on a seat on a table. And I remember she was just talking and smoking a cigarette, because everyone did inside. And her head started to go, and then I looked to the right, and everyone, and it was just brilliant. And Danny had a Fender Twin, he borrowed it, and he had Michael LaPelle. He borrowed Michael LaPelle's white Yamaha Les Paul. How I remember this stuff? I can't remember what I did this morning.
I know. Well, I remember all this stuff because the other, because I've guested twice in your band.
Yeah,
once for Dizzy Moth, once for the Subliminal Girls final gig, which was never fun in any way.
Yeah.
And the famous Dizzy Moth gig where we played. You got me into play Money for Nothing.
We
funny
did
enough.
indeed.
And
Yeah.
we are doing
I've
a
got
podcast soon for the Money for Nothing. We're going to teach you it.
We are. And you know what? I'll send it to you because I found all the photos. So I've got the photographs of you playing a Tobacco Sunburst Gibson Les Paul, playing Money for
Yes.
Nothing with Dizzy Moth. I've got
Yes. Oh wow! Do
Yeah,
do that.
I can
Put them on the socials as well.
Yeah, I will. I can get
I
that to you this
borrowed
afternoon.
that Les Paul off a guy that was that I worked with
Yeah.
called Martin, and I can't. Sorry, Martin, I can't remember your last name because it was 437 years ago.
It was a long time ago.
And everything was black and white back then.
Yeah.
And I said, "Can I borrow it for this gig?" And like an absolute trooper, it was his brand new proper Les Paul. I'd never even seen one before.
I'd never seen a real Les Paul before that.
And he lent it to me, and I was just so I'm like, I took it up, did the gig.
Gibson.
It was an actual proper Gibson Les Paul
Yeah.
in its weird sort of whore pink case,
Yeah.
which mine came in and my other one's got. And it was taken out for the gig and it was put back right afterwards.
Yeah.
But I remember people going mental for it, and it was so badly unprepared. You didn't know half the verse, so I didn't know how to play half
Well,
the thing.
we hadn't rehearsed it.
I know. Absolutely right.
I know. It was one of those things. It was just like, it was great. And I remember this is, if it was now, we would have had a video of it, and it would definitely. But as somebody, I don't know who, thought to take photos, and I do have documented evidence of that happening.
Yes, I think
So
I've seen one once, and I think I've seen a couple from the Subliminal Girls gig, but that's it.
Oh, the Sub Girls one, there's hundreds. It's absolutely hundreds of photographs of that one, because
it was a lot later on.
And the level of vanity with that band was beyond recognition. So,
so let's talk about two things. One, I want to know your story about how you got onto Radio 1. But before we get to that, let's talk equipment. What equipment do you need for a band? Do you need 3 chords and some lies, or the truth, and an amp, and a guitar, and that's it?
That's it.
Isn't it?
If you go to any rehearsal studio, I highly recommend Brixton Hill Studios here. If anyone lives in London, Brixton Hill Studios is absolutely the best place to be, run by a good friend of mine, Stephen Gilchrist, and other great people, Jen Macro and Jimmy Scandal, loads of people. It's the best studio in London. Use that one if you can. But when you go to a rehearsal studio, they will have everything you need. So as long as you've got some kind of a tiny little amp or something, you don't need an amp. You've got plug it and go.
But if you're 17 and you haven't got funds to fund that, GarageBand, right? You've got to get somewhere, get a shed, get somewhere that's got electricity, and just plug the hell out of it.
Well, this is what happened in Guernsey. You just go wherever. I remember we used to rehearse with Dizzy Moth in an asbestos fridge. You would literally go anywhere. And I mean, with 18 Carat, which is the band I was in with Steve, which hopefully will have something coming out soon. This, but well posthumously, but we used to rehearse in this guy's bedroom, and it was a box room. It was the same size as your brother's bedroom back there. There was 5 of us, and we get in there every single week with electronic drum kit. And we'd rehearse, and we had nowhere else to rehearse. We never rehearsed in the studio. We rehearsed in his bedroom.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. I think if you want to be in a band enough, you will make whatever you've got work.
Yeah,
and just do it. Just get on with it.
It does become very addictive, as does the guitar thing. And the guitar, it really does. I mean, you start wondering what guitar's going to go with what outfit, and then you end up.
Yeah,
it's all about it. It's a massive thing. It's a massive thing. But so the answer is all you need is a guitar or a borrowed guitar and a couple of leads.
Yeah.
And some friends who are up for doing it as well. And I hope it never dies. I mean, when I was at school, there was always people that wanted to be in a band. Always. I really hope that when Alana is at the age where it's time to be in a band, that there'll be people she can be in a band with. I just really hope it continues, because it's
I think people have been making music for literally thousands of years, and I think they always will want to.
Yeah,
but I think there's a human need. I mean, some people don't do music, and I don't quite understand them, but I think most people do.
Yeah,
however, there is dedication to being a band as well. If you want to be vaguely okay and doing things well, and you might learn a tune at home, and you might be able to play along with a tape or a YouTube video these days. It was tapes back when we were learning, and CDs just emerged. But there's a massive gap between doing that and doing it live, so you know it.
Yeah, know it, learn it, play it, but rehearse it. And
that is the big leap between, bloke at home in his room
yeah,
to live.
well, the thing is you got the home learning. Studio is home. I can't even. There's not enough room for my hands to stretch how much bigger that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're actually playing with people, but that feeling when you first time you lock in with a band, the first time everyone's in tune. Stay in tune. Whole massive stories about that, but stay in tune as long as you're in, and you all hit the same chord, at the same time. There's nothing like the feeling of it all locking in like that, and everyone's into it. It's all going smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the leap between the studio and live. We always say that one gig is worth 10 rehearsals.
Yeah.
When you get up there and you've got to do it, and you're under pressure. And I'll tell a very, very quick story as to why I talked about the tuning ones. Now, everyone must have a stage tuner. That's one thing which you need to buy. You don't need any other pedals except a stage tuner. A stage tuner is
true.
An essential piece of equipment that will keep your guitar in tune. However, get one as simple as you can. Our good friends at Boss do one that has a button that you can press that will go down or up a semitone. Now, when Dan Haggerty and I were playing a fairly large gig in Camden, he or I, we don't know which one it was, had pressed that button to go down a semitone.
Right.
So one of us was tuned a semitone lower than the other one, but, and here's the rub, we didn't know which one of us it was. Which brought forth the most disastrous gig that I have ever played in my life, because we were always a semitone out. And it was...
That would sound absolutely cacophonous.
And the thing is, we'd started off with a really nice... Dan was playing guitar and I was singing. We started a beautiful Leonard Cohen song, 4 in the morning, Famous Blue Raincoat. And we just him and the guitar and a vocal, and it was brilliant. And we were going to launch into something that was in the same key, and that was great. We launched the thing, and it just was awful from the second. So tuners in tune. Anyway,
yeah.
So you asked me before, which is a how did we manage to get on Radio 1? Now,
yes.
How we managed to get on Radio 1 was this. We got signed to a small label called Weekender Records. And as with all of these things, it's fake. Everything is fake. I took a cover that we've done of Duran Duran's Hungry Like the Wolf along to a gig I was supposed to be DJing at. We ended up not DJing at it. I gave the guy who was the DJ a copy of my Hungry Like the Wolf thing. He said, I've just set up a record label with a guy called Justin. I thought, oh, brilliant, play it to him. Thought nothing else of it. Your brother was on holiday in South Africa. And I popped, and I got an email the next day going, yeah, we'd like to put that out. I went, you what? And of course, your parents thought that meant we were sorted and signed and we would never have to have a job again. But it doesn't quite work like that.
No.
But so we did that cover, but we did one of our own songs called Burn Cocoa, which is about burning cocoa in Camden. It was a kind of a joke song, and it was good fun. And basically, we managed, as back in the day, if you send a demo to Steve Lamacq, Steve Lamacq was, or still is, a great ambassador for new music on BBC Radio.
Right.
And basically, Aaron had sent him a CD when we were in Rhesus, but had very, very cleverly, not on purpose, but very, very cleverly, left a Buzzcocks CD in there instead of the Rhesus CD. So instead of it being completely ignored, we got an email from Steve Lamacq saying, chaps, thank you for the CD. Would have appreciated the Rhesus single. I've already got the Buzzcocks one. Can you drop it round to my address? So Aaron, of course, went round to his house. So we knew where Steve Lamacq lived. So What we did was we sent a copy of, we had radio people apparently anyway, but we sent a copy of it to Steve Lamacq. Now, Steve Lamacq really liked it, played it on Radio 1 in the middle of the night.
It's a great song.
Yeah, it's a great song.
I know you hate it now, but
it's
a great song.
Everyone hates their song that was popular now. But yeah, it was a great... And what happened was, it's called Burn Cocoa. It's about burning nightclubs. So he announced the song, and he said, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I didn't say, ladies and gentlemen. That's not what people said on the radio. This is a song by Subliminal Girls. It's called it's called Burn Cocoa. And at the end of it, he went, that was Burn Cocoa by Subliminal Girls. And then the news came on, and it was a news article about the nightclub called Gatecrasher that just burnt down up in Liverpool that day. Chris
Yeah.
Moyles heard this and thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. So he put it on his breakfast show. So he said, and here we have Burn Cocoa by Subliminal Girls. And went straight into that article about that.
Because he played it all the time, didn't he?
Yeah, and
he loved it.
He played it all throughout that day. Every single news article and link was that. And honestly, my emails, my texts, my phone just went, and nothing happened. It was great, but nothing happened. We got played on daytime, and it was all good. And I think that. Well, I'll tell you one last quick story because I know I'm going on a bit now. But
no, it's fine. No, this is exciting stuff.
This is another. This was the most exciting thing that had ever happened to me in my life. And again, it's luck. My mate Clive, really good buddy of mine, had a really good mate called Dave, who was the producer on the John Peel show. This is obviously when John Peel was still alive.
He was a legend.
We wouldn't need a producer, but anyway, now this is my favourite little story, and I'll put the link to this on there as well. So basically, we were I gave him the Risa single, and I thought absolutely nothing of it, literally absolutely nothing of it. And I was lying in bed, and I think it was the day that Joe Strummer had died because I got a message from someone else saying that Joe Strummer had passed away, and that's very sad. And I'm a massive Clash fan. I was lying in bed. And my phone rang. I was sound asleep. Absolutely, it was about 11 o'clock at night, and it was a work day. And I answered the phone. He went, "Jim, it's Dave. John's about to play your song." I went, "Okay, fine, fair enough." And I woke up and I thought, number one, who the hell's Dave? Number two, who the hell's John? And number three, why the hell's he about to play my song? So I rang the number back, and this old woman answered and said, "Hello," and I went, "Hello, is Dave there?" And she went, "David." And he came to the phone and he went, Jim, you just woke up John Peel's wife. What did he say? Yeah, that was Sheila. I just phoned you from John Peel's house to tell him that he'd been...
my God.
Basically, and he said, get to the radio now. So I went to the radio, and I've still got this recorded as well. I went to the radio, and it was when you could record the radio from the telly when the screen went blue, and so I record, and basically this rumbling voice just came on and went, my producer Dave gave me a few CDs. I'm not going to do his voice. Gave me a few CDs to listen to in the car on the way up, and this is one I particularly like. This is from a band called Rhesus, and a nice big sound here. I hope it's the band and not just the recording. And that was it. And then he played the song.
Oh wow, that is just.
But waking up John Peel's wife will still be one of my my unending claims to fame.
That is a very cool claim to fame. Poor old John Peel's wife. But I mean, you couldn't make you up, really, could we?
No. Well, this is what if it wasn't for joining Dizzy Moth with you and Danny and Dobson and all of that stuff,
none of it.
Obviously, everything in life is cause and effect. If it hadn't been for being in a band, there are so many ridiculous and stupid things that I would never have done. I would probably have a fairly successful career in a large house, but I don't. But I mean, stack of memories.
And I think you've got. I mean, it brings on the element of blagging, doesn't it? There's a quite a famous, and I'll go on about them all the time. But it's the only one I know. But there was quite a famous story when U2 started. That they did their first gig and they couldn't play for Toffee for years, which they say freely. But they did a fairly big, a sort of a gig in Dublin. And Adam Clayton, their bass player, put a post a thing in the local paper saying, "I'm a manager and you guys are absolutely awesome. I'd like to talk to you." Just like purely as a blag. And people went, "Oh Christ, they must be really good then." And they just and then they went, That's the greatest blag in history.
It is all about. Do you know what we should do?
And it is just luck.
We could do a whole podcast about blags. Do you know what? I'm not even going to tell you about the blag that I'm currently got going. I will tell you off screen because I can't say what the blag is.
That's fair enough.
Otherwise, the blag will not work. Right. I've currently got another blag going on. I've got two massive blags, but we'll talk about that another time on another podcast about bands. But I will tell you after we've finished, and people will have to ask me about it themselves if they want to do it. But yeah. So the truth is, get yourself into a band because, despite we started off saying what a nightmare it is, it's wonderful. It's the best thing you can possibly do with your life. Highly recommend getting into a band.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not going to bring you money or girls or fame, but it will bring you memories and fun and a laugh and
Yes.
the odd beer.
Yeah.
And if it gets any bigger than that, where you get to make some money at weddings or you play
whatever.
some decent venues, it's all a bonus. Go
And
for it.
there is no better way to get better at your instrument. If you're going to get full nerd level here, there's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
better way, because I tell you what, the pressure of being watched by one person, which is a darn sight greater than being watched by 100, I can tell you. I've done many more gigs to one person than I have to 100.
I think my first was with Danny.
Yeah.
In that thing that makes on the corner on Fountain Street, whatever it was called back then. What was it called?
Pieces?
Was it Pieces? It might have been Pieces
somewhere in the
terrible.
back of
And
my
I think
head.
me and Danny played, and I was so nervous, and my legs were shaking, and I just could. We'll have to get. We'll talk about stage fright another day, but I just went, this is ridiculous. I actually had to stop playing because I was so nervous. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Luckily, there was only 3 people in there, and they were all drunk, and they didn't notice.
Well, honestly. Your brother and I played a gig a couple of weeks ago. It was my most recent gig, and we played at Alana's school for her school annual fete.
Yeah.
And there was about 300 people. There were a lot of people there, but they were about 20 meters away from where we were because people were walking about. The sound was great. My father-in-law's a proper engineer, and he built a festival stage for us, basically. But it was so weird playing in the middle of the daytime to your kids, the parents from your kids' school.
Yeah, not your usual viewership.
The most terrifying experience, honestly. But there you go. So,
it is true. I mean, if you have, because when we used to play the gigs at the Folk and Blues Club, because me and Keith ended up on our own, just as our own group, and they used to sit there for music to listen. Yeah. And so you'd have a room full of 20 or 30, 40, 50 people staring at you, seeing what you're doing. And that was more scary than the 500 we had at the Subliminal Girls.
Yeah,
I'd be happier playing in front of 80,000 people because they're just a mass of people. If you've got 2 people looking at you, and that is so much more scary.
Yeah, they are looking. And this
so
is
don't be worried about the amount of people you get. No. The more, the better.
No,
because otherwise it's scary. Exactly. Now, we should add that we are now on Patreon.
Oh, we
are on Patreon.
Yeah, so
if anyone wants to buy it, so we've got 2 tiers at the moment. There's one if you just want to buy us a coffee.
Yeah.
Okay. Buy us a coffee. We'll be very grateful for it.
Yes.
We will do a little bit.
Maybe you could buy some plectrums. They're fairly
yeah, absolutely. We'll get a bag of plectrums, anything like that.
Yeah.
And we've also got the highest tier at the moment, which is a free guitar lesson. Well, not free, but it'll be a guitar lesson with me once a month.
Well, there you go. That's a really good offer.
And then we'll come up. It's brand new. We're going to have a little. We'll come up with a plan for a middle tier.
Yeah.
So that's Patreon. So we'll put the link on the descriptions for this video. And there we go. And then you can check us on the Instagram.
Yep.
And that's our social bit done.
It is indeed. Cool. Well, it's been lovely chatting to you as always.
It is, as always, Jim. Yeah.
And once we've finished, I'll tell you about my little blag. Which
I shall look forward to it enormously.
Have a nice day, everyone. Keep playing the guitar.
Absolutely, keep playing the guitar. And thanks for watching. And hit the like and subscribe, please, if you can. We'd be very grateful. And enjoy. We'll see you all next week. Thanks a lot.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.